Okay, hello friends. Welcome to the Reversion. I hope you are having a fantastic Friday evening and that you had a great week. So I apologize for the late start here. I had the usual technical problems and I'm not even going to bother explaining what happened, but yeah, I think we're good now. So thanks for hanging in there with me once again. If you haven't noticed, I have upgraded a bit of the presentation here. So, hopefully that is something that has added some quality to the stream, and, I'll continue to just try to improve that. But for now, it is what it is. I want to thank Monarchs, who's been amazing in creating some new graphics for me. So had a little bit of a rebrand. And I was waiting like 9 months to commission this artist who I love. So he did a great job with my new logo. Got a little bit of a new feel, new vibe. Welcome on in, everyone who's just joining us here. I appreciate you joining on a Friday evening. You could be doing many things on a Friday night, and yet you choose to be here hanging out with me. So I'm very grateful for that. So welcome on in. Thanks, Nikos. Yeah, it's been, I've been spending like the last 2 days just trying to get everything in order. I'm still a little rusty on stuff with the streaming, but yeah, it'll improve as we keep doing these. This is my third live stream, so glad that you have joined me here. So as you can tell from the title, we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into the so-called Star of David. This is something that has it's kind of always a discussion, but it's been more mainstreamed, I suppose, at least in our niche corner of the internet, due to Alex Jones going on a strange rant, which you might have seen the other day. It was kind of going around, and it was a little bit bizarre. And it's not to say that he wasn't like totally off about it, or that he was totally off. But we're going to kind of unpack some of this stuff. And it's a pretty deep history. It goes back for, like anything occult, esoteric. It's, an ancient origin. So it is a little bit more nuanced than it tends to be presented. So, I'm looking forward to this deep dive that we're going to do here. Before we get into it, I did want to touch on some housekeeping, just some updates regarding the work I've been doing behind the scenes. So, like I said, rebrand. So there's that. I do also want to thank my sponsors, who is all my paid subscribers on Substack. I don't have any. I don't work with any brands or affiliates. So it's all thanks to you guys who have been supporting my work. Whether you're new or longtime supporter, I appreciate all you guys. That's pretty much why I don't have sponsors and stuff. I don't even know who would sponsor me if that were a thing. But this is how we're able to stay independent. Something goes down on YouTube, which is still an experiment. The channel gets nuked for whatever reason. It's been a blessing to have the main hub of all my content on Substack, because I'm able to directly email everyone on my list. We're approaching 4,000 subscribers, which is amazing. Actually, I think is it 5,000? I'm sorry. Yeah, we're approaching 5,000 on Substack, which is incredible. And I've entered the top 50 history Substacks, which I just, it's weird to even say that. Because as you probably know, I started out kind of like doing really schizo type threads, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it's been a great blessing. So thank you for all the support on Substack, especially paid subscribers, those of you in the book club. speaking of the book club, we are doing our wrap-up session for the book, The Hidden History of the American Education, which has been really enlightening and on a very personal level too. But I won't get into that right now. We're going to do that on, I believe, Tuesday night. So if you've been reading along, we'll do our, maybe I'll stream it. I don't know. We'll see. And the focus as of late has just been on trying to build out this new experiment, as I said, this live stream. So that's been going on, and then also I'm writing the book, or I'm revising the book that is based on the two articles that I wrote here, which you can see. The Kabbalah and the Christian Zionist Conspiracy, which is part 2 of this one here, Kabbalah and the Protestant Revolution. I don't know that I'm going to maintain this title. I've been struggling with what I'm going to title the book, but basically, it's going to be it's going to be all the content that you see here in these 2 articles. There's going to be a little bit more. I'm writing an introduction, and I have to revise a little bit of the presentation because I would like to make it more readable for Protestants. Because I found that one of the major problems I was having with getting Protestants to read it, after even prompting them to, was the title alone. I guess the title is pretty maybe provocative. I think the general reaction was like, they were like, this sounds retarded. Why would I even read that? That seems so absurd. Even the title, the thesis, whatever, seems so absurd that I'm not even going to bother reading that. So that was the general reaction I got. And so I do want to work on retitling it and kind of just presenting it in a broader scope, because it's not just Kabbalah that influenced the Protestant Revolution. That was, I would say, the driving force, but there was all the esotericism that was being practiced, alchemy, Hermeticism, all this stuff, and the secret society. So I found Kabbalah to be kind of like the vein that runs through it all. But yeah, working on the title. So that's going on. I don't know. People keep asking me when it'll be published. I don't know yet. I'm hoping by the fall. I would say by the fall is pretty reasonable goal. So that's why I've just been trying to, I'm doing that behind the scenes. I haven't been publishing articles really since these articles here, and just focusing on the live stream so we can do that, hang out a little bit. I think maybe what I'll do is towards the end, if you guys are in Discord, maybe I'll pop on there and have an open chat if that's a thing that we can do. But anyway, that's about all I've got, I think. And then I'm also putting together a note-making and research workshop, because a lot of people have been asking about the how I'm writing my notes for all the books, all the reading that I do, because I have this whole system. And let me see if I could pull up this photo here. Because I have this whole note making system that helps me to archive all my knowledge, and so a lot of people have just been asking about that. Let me see if I have it open. Yeah, so it's this here. So this is my note box. I have over. This is about 1.5 years worth of notes. There's over 300 note cards. And I have this whole system where I catalog everything. It's all interconnected. It's an index. It uses unique IDs and indexes and stuff. Anyway, not going to get into that. Totally just unrelated, but I just wanted to let you know, if you were interested in this system, I am working on putting a workshop together. We can do a live workshop. I'll record them and then make them available for paid supporters on Substack. So another reason to get in on the monthly subscription on Substack. People are getting a lot of value out of that. It's not just you're paying me and getting content. You're getting a community. You're getting all the learning that we're doing through the book club, this whole system, all the behind the scenes, all the stuff that's happening in the private chats and Discord. So there's a lot going on. People have been telling me that there's a lot of value in the paid subscription. So anyway, I'm done shilling for now. Let's do this. Let's dive into some current events. There's like 4 or 5 things I wanted to touch on, and that will segue into our main topic tonight on this quote Star of David, because one of the current events is the Alex Jones crash out, I guess, of him just going off about the Star of Remphan, the star, that's the seal of Solomon. It's the seal of Solomon. He started screaming. It was kind of hilarious. Alex Jones going on a schizo JQ rant. So we're gonna do some current events here, and then what I'll do is like I said, segue into that. So the first thing, is this even live? Let me just check here. Nope. Okay, we're not even live on Twitter. So I don't even know how that works. Again, I don't know why it's not streaming on Twitter, but it's not, unless it's on a different stream. Nope. So we're not even live on Twitter. I might as well delete this. All right. It's just that we have a nice comfy audience here on YouTube then. It's just YouTube. That's all we got tonight. Anyway, so very, not great news, very sad. The terror attack that occurred, the suicide bombing in Damascus of an Orthodox church, called Mar Elias Church. Sadly, at least 15 people received their crown of glory. And it's just, I can't even play this video on YouTube. It's just a really graphic video, very horrific. So pray for them and ask them for your prayers. They've entered the kingdom. So, this is just, this is really, I don't even know what to say. This really saddened me. It's not good news. Martyrdom is, like I said, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. I mean, this is just an ongoing thing. It's not like this is something new, but as the tensions increase in the Middle East and we're in wartime, this is just gonna sadly be like this somewhat regular thing, unfortunately. But yes, pray for their families. There was also, I think, just was this a couple days ago, there was the funeral service. So there are brothers and sisters who entered the kingdom, received their crown of glory there, martyrs, and with their family members. So, this is just really, I was really touched by this because, these people, like in the West, I just imagine the crisis the spiritual crisis that Western Christians, particularly, maybe to generalize, Protestants might undergo if their faith weren't as strong, I suppose, speaking very kind of cautiously here, but being mad at God, like how could God do this and all that kind of stuff. So it was just really encouraging to see these faithful Orthodox Christians, attending the services. Obviously they're going to attend the funeral, but holding fast in their faith. So yeah, just pray for all the family members as well, because I guess, to be fair, you don't even know we have no idea what kind of spiritual struggles they're going to be undergoing after all of this. So that's got to be, I can't even imagine. I could never imagine how challenging that is. But that's that. I didn't want to spend too much time on that. I'm sure this is not news to too many of you if you've been, actively kind of in the news cycle here. But another Another tragic event. I'm sorry, it's all tragedy. I mean, this is just the nature of social media, I guess. I mean, it's really just the TV news on steroids. You're just getting all of these bad stories one after another, all this doom scrolling. You have to kind of go out of your way to find encouraging stuff, I guess. But yeah, this was another pretty crazy story. Pretty shocking, I guess. There was a guy who actually, let me pull up this video here. You can just watch the video. This was just like outrageous. So as you can see, this guy's got some Hebrew letters on his neck. He went on a killing spree. I'll let the news segment here explain it, but you know, and then I'll explain what these symbols are.
This man right here, he's accused of killing New River pastor Bill Scheineman, and he admits to our camera, to our Lauren Clark, that he is responsible for that brutal murder.
He made no bones about it. He says this was part of a plan to kill 14 Christian leaders in 10 states across the country. Lauren Clark now joins us live to explain, and we've got to warn you up front, these details are disturbing.
No kidding.
Well, John and Ellen, first of all, before I go into the details of that interview, I want to start with the man who is the victim in this case. I think that is super important. Pastor Bill Scheineman. He was beloved in his community. This was a man, according to people who knew him really well, who would do anything to help out a person in need, a light in his community, a light that Adam Schiff admitted to me right here in the Coconino jail about 2 hours ago that he took. He showed no remorse or regret for his actions.
Led into the room in shackles, Adam Christopher Schiff admitted to murder.
Did you kill Pastor Bill Scheineman?
Yes.
He justified his actions with religion, citing his twisted belief that Christian pastors are leading people into a false path by following Jesus. He said Pastor Bill was the first in a plot he called Operation First Commandment, aimed at killing and then crucifying 14 Christian leaders across the country. He admitted that he was about to kill 2 priests at the Chapel of the Holy Cross in Sedona before he was arrested by police.
The day that I was going to execute that priest, I tried getting into the back of his car, and there was like an older lady that was on like a small little bicycle that got into my way. And I was just going to get into the back seat and tell him to drive to his house.
I asked if Adam was ever victimized by anyone in the Christian faith. He said no. He said his family is Christian and that he had a good childhood. He denied being mentally unwell.
But Pastor Bill, speaking to people who
So,
knew...
and I just want to pause here, but this is, a lot of people were saying on X that he was a Christian, because like the story is that this guy's Jewish, or at least practicing the Jewish Judaism. He's practicing Judaism. He's got these Hebrew letters on his neck, which is, by the way, apparently it's the Tetragrammaton. So the unspeakable name Yahweh. And so that is an indicator of, at the very least, if he's like any kind of identifying as any kind of Christian, which there's no possible way, some strong indicator of like obsession with Judaism. So this is not a Christian. He might have been raised Christian, but there was clearly, he's probably demonically possessed, to be honest. I would say almost certainly, but what do I know? The fact that he's doing a confession and actually saying what he did, and he's proud of it, is just it's so demonic. So yeah, I mean, this is straight up. It's either he's either demonically possessed or like extremely demonically oppressed. Either one. I don't think it matters which one.
His family, he helped people get back on the right track in this world. He helped a woman who was living out of her car go into a house and get her life back on track. Do you think what you took was precious or valuable in any way?
Adam answered that question with a religious tangent. He said he was not sorry for what he did.
Will I apologize for my actions? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So, and then there was an interview he had with a journalist. When was this? Oh, so this was almost a week ago, but yeah, I mean, this was about 5 days ago. He sat down with a journalist, and this was really chilling. And I won't watch all of these, but she did, because I think it was like a 30-minute interview, but she did get some pretty crazy clips here. And so we're gonna look at like what was this about? Why was he killing pastors or priests? Why was he targeting priests, Christian leaders?
So you had no previous contact with Pastor Bill?
Zero. I didn't want any previous contact. My only criteria was you're breaking the first commandment.
But
Okay.
Pastor Bill was in it?
So that is a Talmudic teaching. That's the Noahide laws. So that's where he's getting that from. Because this is something that is in the Noahide laws. It's the first of the 7 Noahide laws, which the Noahide laws apply to all people. So all descendants of Noah, according to the Talmud. And the first Noahide law is regarding idolatry. And so in the Talmud, it actually explains what constitutes idolatry, and Christians are seen as perceived as idolaters according to Talmudic law because of our worship of Christ. So this is seen in Judaism as a false god, the Trinity, and so that's not to say like there's a commandment that to go out and kill all Christians. I think that would be, to be fair, like taking it to an extreme. But it's certainly permissible to some extent. It goes into all these debates on how it is permissible, but indirect killing, stuff like that. But it's certainly not to the extent this guy's doing. So he's got some weird kind of serial killer stuff going on here where he's targeting different, he's talking about like how he's doing this ritual afterwards where he's crucifying them seemingly after he kills them. So, and then he's doing something with like the 12 tribes. So very bizarre stuff.
Innocent, in your perspective, there's nothing
But not
worse,
yours.
But there's nothing worse than breaking the first commandment.
Yeah.
So from there to Bill's house, like 2 a.m. on a Sunday night, and I executed him. It's fast. I mean, it's, I didn't want it to be bloody. I didn't want it to be a painful. I'm not trying to torture the guy. I just wanted to execute him quickly. Put him in the cross position on the wall, and I screwed him to the wall. And then I had a crown of thorns I put on his head. So he's
So this is a ritual killing.
In the image of Jesus. Because what I'm saying is, what you're preaching is not what God said. It's the opposite of what God said.
Most people that would come into that.
So yeah, he's not saying this, but he's getting that from the Talmud. This is Judaism. So if I were to guess, because I looked up this guy's last name, since there was all this debate about if he was Jewish or Christian, and he does have he was raised in a Christian family apparently, and then he also has like a Scottish last name, although I've came across some literature on how there was like a large Jewish population in Scotland in I believe the 18th century or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But regardless, this seems like maybe a guy like let's call him a Gentile convert to Judaism. To be fair, let's call him that, and it's almost like Gentile runs wild with the teachings of the Talmud, and I don't know. This is a very bizarre story. I haven't really been able to make sense out of this. I don't think anyone can.
That scene, Bill's murder scene, would be horrified.
Sure,
Horrified.
that's right.
Were you feeling satisfied?
I wasn't, look, I'm not, it's not in my heart to go around killing people.
You also have a family.
You did, though.
Bill has a family. Did you think about that at all?
No, I'm thinking about.
If you killed people, it's in your heart to kill people. That just doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make any sense.
The families that are in utter destruction, by following these false teachings and not obeying God and not giving our Creator the respect for giving families life to begin with.
How would you feel, though, if somebody crucified you?
Good luck trying.
Do you think you're a monster?
Do I think I'm a monster? No.
It's a gruesome killing of another person. Most people would consider that monstrous.
Sure, of course
But
they
you
would.
don't think you are.
No, I see
Yeah,
myself
he's just-
as more of like a saint.
Yeah, he's just doing what the Talmud says. So yeah, I don't even want to give this guy that much more attention. I mean, this is just,
See,
he's talking about, trying to rid the earth of evil. I mean, he thinks that he's kind of like purging or trying to like purge this, I guess what he would consider a heresy or something. I don't know. The guy's twisted. There's no point like even trying to figure out the why behind his actions. I mean, this is just a very schizophrenic, demonic individual, probably just straight up a demon. So yeah, there was that too. There's a lot of people talking about that because of the Hebrew symbols and because of the reference to Noahide laws, the Talmud and stuff. So very bizarre story. Sorry, this is very dark, but yeah, another kind of tragic story here. I mean, there was in geopolitics, there was Trump kind of tempered I guess debatably tempered the tension in the Middle East. I don't think he did at all, though. But at least in regards to Iran, he issued this ceasefire, and of course, neither party was listening. Iran and Israel both weren't listening. They kept firing rockets. And there was a statistic going around that Israel broke their ceasefire something around like 600 something times, maybe more. I don't even know how you come up with a number for that, but this is all just continued, like nothing stopped. So it says here, and this is from Haaretz, which is a Jewish publication. It's a killing field. IDF soldiers ordered to shoot deliberately at unarmed Gazans waiting for humanitarian aid. That is the headline from a Jewish source. So this is just crazy that this is still going on. Lord have mercy. I don't know what to say about this. It's just, this has just been going on. This isn't news. This has been going on, and it's just continuing after this quote ceasefire. So yeah, and I had to get, the archive page because it's paywalled, but, maybe if I can remember, I'll leave a link to this in the show notes. But yeah, just by the headline alone, I mean, it's no surprise we know that this has been going on. It's just kind of crazy to see the headline from Haaretz that they're actually being ordered. The IDF is being ordered to shoot purposely at unarmed civilians that are waiting for aid. They're trying to get help. They're trying to get food, probably water, probably shelter as well, and they're being picked off by the IDF. So, it's just what a mess. But anyway, let's get into, now that we've got that out of the way. And please give me feedback on these streams, because like I said, this is my third time doing this and I'm still feeling out a format. So like, if you want to see more or less or not at all any current events, let me know, because I'm glad to not cover them, so that the content is a little bit more relevant in the future. So and if you do like the current events, I'll try to find some off the wall stories that even if you were to find these videos like years down the road, it would be like, what is going on here? So anyway, this was also after all the talk about the ceasefire and kind of what I covered last week, how this discussion of the Israel lobby has made its way into mainstream discourse in the conservative world. It kind of was like, not that Israel Palestine wasn't in the mainstream discourse, but specifically the Israel lobby and AIPAC. That was a pretty recent thing that, since Tucker covered it, and it's been covered on what's his name, Pierce Morgan, who I give a lot of credit to because he actually very publicly changed his view on the conflict and has become very critical of Israel as of late. Watch his recent episodes with Dave Smith. So it looks like Alex Jones has joined in a very bizarre way. Again, I don't know what the context of this was. What I'm about to play here is a clip, 7-minute clip. So I don't know what he was talking about before or after this, the extent of his criticism of Israel or of Judaism. But this is what he posted. This was going around. He started crashing out over the Star of David. So this will segue into our subject today. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive and figure out what is this all about here. So I'll play this and just we'll let it roll here.
Oh, you're covering up Star of Rimfam. No, it's the Seal of Solomon. And it's even worse than all the idiots out there say it is. They just never get it right. It's the seal of Satan that seals the demons in. Now, it's a similar to it. Tex Mara's really smart. He tells it may have been the Star of Rimfam. It doesn't matter. It's in the Bible and in the other ancient texts that it's the seal he came up with to seal the jinn in that he was using to control things in black magic.
All right. And I'm going to stop here and then I'll let it roll. But I did want to comment just as you're hearing him say this stuff, he's completely wrong. This is not in the Bible. There's nothing in the Old Testament that talks about a seal of Solomon and sealing demons in jars. He says jinn, and there's a reason he says jinn. Jinn is the Islamic term for demon, and so this is from an Islamic text, I believe, one of the hadiths. Maybe I don't remember, or if it even is one of the hadiths. I know it's from some Islamic historical text or something. And it's completely esoteric. So it actually, it's also mentioned in Jewish mystical texts that, we're going to get into this a little later, but it's not from the Bible. So he's completely wrong about that. There's nothing about the Seal of Solomon. This is what's known as Solomonic magic. It's a form of Jewish magic. So that's just to give context as he's going off here.
It's Jewish mysticism. So yes, the Star of David is not the Star of David. It is the Seal of Solomon that seals Satan. You cannot sit in Kanye West's lap during his beginning of his I Love Hitler tour and prance around like a gremlin at their feet and then suddenly be, wearing giant stars of David, which is really the Seal of Solomon, not the Star of Rimfam. I love, oh, you're covering up Star of Rimfam. No, it's the Seal of Solomon.
I feel like
even worse than all the
just
idiots
found out
there
about
say
this.
it is. They just never get it right. It's the seal of Satan that seals the demons in. But you can't ever get anything right. Not the Nazis, not the crazy Zionists, none of you. You're fools. You know nothing of history. You only claim you know it.
The based centrist.
Had that moron Stu Peters in here. And he goes, what do you think about the Star of David? That's really the Star of Rimfam. Because some stupid, uneducated preacher says that. Now, it's a similar to it. Tex Mara's really smart. He tells it may have been the Star of Rimfam. It doesn't matter. It's in the Bible and in the other ancient texts that it's the seal he came up with to seal the jinn in that he was using to control things in black magic.
All right, so
it's Jewish.
His argument is that it's not the Star of Remphan, which is in the Bible. It's the Seal of Solomon, which is in the Talmud and all these Jewish mystical texts and some Islamic texts. So it's a very bizarre argumentation here. And this is why I wanted to unpack this, because I'm asked about this actually pretty often, about this symbol, this hexagram that is now the icon of the modern, the Zionist state and the Jewish people, really. So it's just a very bizarre argumentation that he's arguing against it being the star of Remphan, which, you know, again, it may or may not be that. We're going to go into that, but it's the Seal of Solomon, which is, you know, this occult idea.
Mysticism. So yes, the Star of David is not the Star of David. It is the Seal of Solomon that seals Satan. And you go, oh, you mean it battles Satan? No, it controls Satan. You know, you've heard Smoley, we wrestle with God. Israel, so it means. And we're even greater than you, God. Remember that clip we played last week of Smoley? Woo, that's dangerous. That's some. And then see, oh, and we control Satan too.
Okay, so he's been covering Rabbi Shmuley. I mean, that's some of the stuff that he said, which is actually pretty red pilling. His mask off moments, Rabbi Shmuley, because he says stuff like, you know, we control God. I don't know if he says it in those exact words, but something along those lines. He's kind of gone off on these tangents and said on video that you know, the Jewish people are so powerful that they control God, and that is a Kabbalistic idea, because you know, as I've covered before, the whole like human action, the theurgic ritual stuff that they do, this notion that they have in the from the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation, in Kabbalah, that Adam, it was actually Adam that kicked God out of the garden. So they believe that man has divine command over God. And so I'm glad to see he's like, maybe he's coming around Alex Jones here. I don't know. Again, I don't watch Alex Jones, but if he's been playing Rabbi Shmuley videos where he's talking about that stuff, I mean, that's pretty revealing.
Yeah, well, I ain't trying to control God or Satan. I've got defense against Satan through Jesus Christ. But it isn't me doing it, it's Jesus Christ. So you guys go ahead and run your mouths how you control God, you control Satan, and oh, you're so powerful. Yeah, you think you're in control. Bless your soul. We should come out with Gnarls Barkley. Bless your soul. You think you're in control? You don't even know what you're dealing with. My dad explained when I was about 8 years old the Seal of Solomon. Said it was important to understand how the secret societies operated and was at the heart of it.
What? Why did his dad know
my dad
about
later
this?
went out and researched it. But it's hard to find that information because the profane, that's what the other occultists call everybody else. The Jews call you the Goyim. And see, here's the thing. See,
it's even interesting.
The Jews, they call us Goyim. They call us Goyim.
So this is even interesting to hear him mention this. I don't think he brings this up that often. I know he has guests on that do. And I know that he's like aware of it because there's these old clips of Alex Jones saying this. So it's like something he's been keen to for a very long time. But he often gets criticized for not touching on this subject at all. So again, maybe he's coming around, but yeah, again, just a very bizarre rant here.
And see, here's the thing. People go, oh God, the Jews, they call us Goyim, they call us Goyim, they call us... All the cults call everybody else profane. Like dog crap. Be lucky the Jews just call you cows. You see,
yeah,
I'm trying to get you...
Except there's an important distinction here because the I have to be careful with how I talk about this on YouTube here, but the way that he's right that occultists call those who are not in the know and initiated, the uninitiated, they are referred to as the profane, and so he's kind of framing this as like, well, these are Jewish mystics, esotericists who, you know, they have this word goyim, which is just referring to like all occultists, the profane. And it's like kind of, there's also like a racial element to it though. And there's also a supremacist element. So that, you know, that wasn't, he kind of brushed over that and tried to make it like, oh, well, you know, this is just like any other esoteric practice, and it's not. So yeah, again, it's like a little bit like, I mean, look, this is why people say Alex Jones is controlled opposition, because like he will delve into these subjects, but it's with a very kind of like there's like some truth in it, and then there's also like some twisted stuff, and there's no way of knowing if that's intentional or not. I wouldn't make a claim either way, but I could understand those who say that this is controlled opposition.
Not act like a cow. So, yep, there it is. The Ring of Solomon to command demons and spirits. So that's what it is.
That's from Wikipedia, though. It's
King
not the
Solomon
Bible.
said it. He'd studied all the seals and conjured thousands of demons, including Satan himself, and married hundreds of wives to study their different occultic religions, and even involved human sacrifice.
All right, where's that in the Bible?
And he said, that seal commands Satan. Oh, we're having a history lesson today. Laura Limmer, tell me about anti-Semitism now. Oh, how's old Ye doing? Oh, how Hitler? Okay. I love Hitler. Watch, the left will take that out of context. Say, Jones is loving Hitler. Good, put the lies out. People will just come and hear the truth. Hitler was an occultic loser, set up by British intelligence.
All right, so that's like, I don't know why he's talking about Hitler now, but
God wants you to actually not act like cows. And the spirit in me that is from the Father wants you to succeed and wants this information not hidden. Occult means hidden. So we want to illuminate. You go, oh my God, that's Illuminati. No, the devil always counterfeits. The Illuminati, as you've known it the last 250 years, is not the true illumination. Christ is the true illumination. Be the light unto the world.
So he's just preaching now.
Not the false light of Lucifer. People's theologians say, well, why is Jesus called the morning star? And why is Lucifer called the morning star? Because Lucifer is the false morning star.
So I think he's done with this seal of Solomon tangent here. But what is he talking about? Yeah, there's some questions in chat. It's like, what's going on here? Never heard of Solomon's seal. Never. He's bugging out. Yeah. It's like, so again, this is from, remember how in the beginning of that rant, he's saying that it's in the Bible. The star of Remphan is like this made up, like right wing. I guess how do I say? Still trying to filter myself on YouTube, but yeah, it's a conspiracy of like far right people, and it's actually in Acts. I forget which book in Acts it is, but Star of Remphan. So this is so Acts 7:43, which says, Ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch, and the star of your god Remphan, figures which ye made up to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. I think this is in St. Stephen's sermon before he was martyred, I believe. Yeah, it is. And so there's all this speculation that star of Remphan is what's now known as the Star of David, and this is where it came from. So that symbol represents Moloch worship and Remphan worship, I guess both. It's very unclear, right? People just kind of throw it around like it's a meme and say this, and it's kind of unclear, like which one does it represent? Is it both? So, there's a lot of discourse about this, like what is the origins, like what does it represent? And this has been the popular view that I've seen, and at least in like my circle, in my replies and stuff, when I post anything about it, this seems to be the common view that it is the Star of Remphan. So we're going to dive into, is that the truth? Is that really what it is? I mean, and I guess spoiler alert, the answer is we don't know. So we can't definitively draw these conclusions, because tracing the origin of symbology is, it's a very, I'm not an academic kind of like symbologist type. But what I do know in my like very amateur research is that you could kind of only make these assumptions and the speculation. Some evidence is stronger than others, depending on the symbol. But I mean, the way you trace it back is like, okay, what's the earliest that this has gone? What's the earliest discoveries of this symbol? What regions and what religion did they practice? How was it used in their religion and their culture? Was there any text describing its use? And often with occult images, that's not, that may or may not be described. It usually isn't. But was it just a design? Was it just like a common design that was used? It could just be that. So yeah, let's get into this. Let's like begin our deep dive here. Now, let me close out of these here. These are some of the images that you'll see going around in this discourse. So like here, I was actually looking for this image and I was having trouble finding it, but it's not zooming in. But yeah, that one of the right here, this one right here on the left, which is from Eliphas Levi, who was a 33rd degree Freemason. He was kind of one of these Albert Pike types who wrote these tomes on Freemasonry, on the philosophy and the religion of Freemasonry. He was a magician, an occultist, a Kabbalist. So he came up with this image depicting this hexagram symbol as what I believe this is Adam Kadmon. So I mean, again, it's like, this is why you just don't just take the information that's in these memes like this, where it's just like an image and then they have some kind of caption describing it. It's like, with this kind of stuff, those aren't always accurate. Often they are not accurate at all. And because in my research, I found that this is more than likely depicting Adam Kadmon, who is he's the primordial man in Kabbalah. He is like what we would call the Antichrist. And I won't get into Adam Kadmon here because it's a bit off topic, but it's depicting, because Adam Kadmon is like he's a transsexual. He's like a hermaphrodite, so he's both male and female. And this reflects the Shekinah, which is another Kabbalistic concept, which is that there's a feminine half of God. And so this is an image depicting that. But, this is, there was a Kabbalistic adoption of this symbol that we'll get into. You'll see stuff like this, which is like, okay, this is getting a little bit closer to what we're going to be looking at. Because you do see this symbol, this hexagram, in all different cultures at different time periods. These are, I believe, like floor tiles and temples and mosques and synagogues, stuff like that. You can see that there's a Mormon church here that has it, assuming that is correct, that it's a Mormon church. I mean, I've even seen this symbol in Orthodox churches. So it's like, what's going on with that? Are they using the seal of Solomon or the Star of Remphan, this demonic occult symbol in Orthodox churches? Well, no, this is what we're going to get into here. Again, there's a lot more nuance to this. The symbol of the Freemasons. So again, it's like, you can't just look at this and say, well, there's a grand conspiracy with this symbol, because it was used in different cultures and different times for different purposes, right? Once you get into the modern period, then you can more definitively say, well, that is a symbol of Judaism, because it was after its adoption as the symbol of Judaism. And so yeah, I mean, these are the images that you'll see often on the timeline and the replies on, whatever you're on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Oh, the Pope has it on his hat. It's like, okay, there's a lot of things you can criticize about the Pope, obviously, but this is just goofy. Like, don't use this in like some kind of apologetics to like dunk on papists, to say like, oh, what is that? Why does the Pope have an occult symbol on his hat? Maybe it is like, I don't know. There's a chance that that's what it is, but from what I found, I don't think that's the case. This is probably predating the Jewish adoption of it. So that would be my assumption. Yeah, the 6-pointed star. Oh, it's the number 6. This is the mark of the beast. I mean, yeah, you see all this kind of stuff here. Again, just like, I kind of cringe at these now when I see these images. Like, again, there might be some truth sprinkled in here, like this. Okay, this is something we're going to get into as well. The usage of this symbol with the founding fathers, because you do see this symbol used in the, if I can find it here, I might have to just do a search for it. You do see this in the layout, like the architecture and the layout of the streets in Washington, D.C. So I'll just show you what that looks like if you haven't seen this before. I mean, this is like, I remember seeing this when I was a kid. This is like conspiracy theory 101 type stuff right here. So this is the Capitol Hill. These are like main roads in Washington, D.C. They compose the hexagram, the Seal of Solomon. And I believe at each one of these points, there's like a landmark. So like up here is the Washington Monument, that big obelisk. This is Capitol Hill. I don't remember what the other stuff is here. Maybe it looks like this is, I don't know if this is or isn't something. But I think maybe one of them is also the Lincoln Memorial. Not that well-versed in DC geography, but I mean, it's there. And now you can say, well, look, the streets continue up though. Like they kind of imposed that symbol there. But I do think there was like some, sacred geometry or whatever that was used in the foundation of the streets and the layout of DC. That's pretty obvious. You could say, oh, maybe you can say it's a compass. You could also probably draw the Freemason compass, because you got the V here and then that. This here is doesn't look like it's a main road or anything. So you could say that they kind of imposed that here, and it might be something else if you wanted to do a critical view of it. But and it also appears on the dollar bill, $1 bill, Star of David. And I covered this in my article. Actually, I'll pull it up here. I covered this in my article, in the first article, Kabbalah and the Protestant Revolution, because I go into the founders a bit and their adoption of Jewish mysticism. And here I lay out some evidence that Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin did have knowledge of Jewish mysticism. And right here in Thomas Jefferson's letter to John Adams, he is urging him to look into these Jewish mystical texts, to compare the morals of old with those of the New Testament, and do an attentive study of the former. So to search through all these Jewish mystical texts, I don't know what the reason for that is, but you can see that in the, I guess, iconography of the United States, the Great Seal, there was some Kabbalistic imagery that was used. So, for example, that's the Shekinah right there. which the Puritans saw as this guiding force that took them across the Atlantic. So I go into what the Shekinah is in this article. But here you can see, everyone talks about the back of the dollar bill, and they go to the left side with the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. And actually in the Great Seal, so this was the first proposed Great Seal that was rejected, that Ben Franklin created. And then this was the accepted one, obviously. This was the accepted U.S. seal. And this also has the Shekinah on it. So that is a cloud, they call it a cloud of glory that represents the Shekinah. And inside it is the 13 stars, and they make up a hexagram there. So there it is. And there's a legend. I don't know if this is or isn't true. I just presented it as such, as this is just a legend, that the reason this was incorporated into the Great Seal was it was a debt that Haym Solomon owed to George Washington for financing the Revolutionary War. He said he wanted nothing more than to pay tribute to the Jewish people. So, we can look into if that timeline matches up, if this was something that, which it actually does, now that I'm thinking of it. Yeah, it does. It predates the founding of America by a few hundred years. So, I mean, yeah. And then, I go into referencing Gershom Scholem, which we're going to get into. So, because Gershom Scholem is the preeminent scholar of Kabbalah, who really uncovered a lot of the history of the transmission of Kabbalah. He was a Kabbalist himself, but gave like a really good overview of it in various works. So he's the go-to source for that. And again, I don't encourage you guys study this stuff. So a lot of people, they're like, why do you study this? Like, why is this something that you cover with your content? And it's like, it really has nothing to do with orthodoxy. I thought this is an orthodox publication. And well, for those who are new, that is true. It is an orthodox publication, but what we do here is we do these deep dives into symbology, into the occult, and really it's through an Orthodox worldview, but it's also to better understand the spirit of the age that governs the Western world. All of the world really, but in where we live in the West, this helps us to understand why things are the way that they are. You can look at all this stuff happening in modernity, the transgenderism and the cultural Marxism and all this stuff, and it's like no one really bothers to take the next step and find out why, like how did it get here? Why is it here? What does it, what's the influence that guides it? And it, the reason I talk about Kabbalah and I publish about it is because I can't escape it. As I look into this stuff, it seems to be the guiding force behind all this stuff. There's always this vein of Kabbalistic influence that runs through all this esotericism, at least Western esotericism. And so it's just, the further you go down the rabbit hole, the more you realize it's all connected to Kabbalah to varying degrees. And then there's the question of how much of it is Kabbalistic, and does it matter? I don't think it matters, but that's why we cover this stuff. So you want the theological content, the debates and stuff. There's plenty of other publications and channels and stuff that do that stuff. We're doing things a little bit different here. So with that said, this is another conservative, popular conservative, Candace Owens, who mentioned this back in April. So, she's been bringing a lot of stuff to light, kind of similar to Jones, although she's, I would say, more on the right track, but she's still she's still pretty off with some stuff. So, she did bring this up, and this is she's saying it's the Star of Remphan. And again, no evidence other than here's an image that most people don't know what this is from. They're just seeing it for the first time, and they're seeing that it's a star. Looks exactly like the star of the Star of David. Same shape. It literally is. But it's got these numbers in it. And what is this around it? Oh, there's a cow or a bull horn, a bull head or something. So what are these animals, right? It's like no one really knows what this is or where it dates back to. So she's just throwing this out there and saying like, oh yeah, this was the symbol that was being carried by the Jews out of their Babylonian captivity, which bore the sign of Moloch, of Remphan, and people just eat it up. And so that's what she's saying here. I've always been confused how, knowing that the Bible explicitly mentions the Star of Remphan as being associated with Saturn worship, and Moloch is now somehow being deemed anti-Semitic. This is in fact the Star of Remphan. Okay, so just because you say this is in fact something doesn't mean that is the fact. I'm happy to become further educated if someone can point me in the Bible where else this is. So again, you're not going to get, the Bible doesn't describe this symbol. So this is why it all just comes down to speculation. It may be. Maybe that's true. Maybe it is, but we don't know. We can't say definitively that this is what the symbol was. And so then she just quotes the verse in Acts 7 from St. Stephen. And there's, just opens up some interesting discourse here. So you see all these images I just showed you. There are people just recycling these images. And there's all this debate about what it is. And this guy's actually, so this is, this guy's associated with InfoWars, I think, or maybe he just made the Alex Jones game, but this, he's appeared in my replies before. He's he's a member of the tribe. And so he's always doing all this fact checking and stuff. And he's actually right about this. The Magen David, which is probably, well, I don't know about the David part, but it is, Magen is what we're after here. This is more accurate to the historical usage of this. So yeah, it's not a pentagram. The pentagram has 5 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's just retarded when people say, oh, it's a pentagram. It's not. It's a completely different shape. It's just it's a star, but it's not a hexagram. So this here, I don't know how where he's getting that from. That's the Star of Remphan. It's actually the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. Maybe that's true. I don't know. And so where this idea comes from, this Saturn worship, which is another thing you'll see often, is that the inner part of the hexagram, this hexagon, appears on the north pole of Saturn, I believe. So if we pull up a search here, you'll see these are more common images that you'll see going around. I see this one posted all the time. So we just looked at the seal. And so again, it's like they just throw all these images together as if it is like cohesive, and then it's this grand conspiracy throughout history. And they just throw a Masonic compass over it too. It's like, well, yeah, it fits. It outlines part of it. Not really how symbology works, but this is what they're referring to here on the left. This hexagon that is at the top of of Saturn. And so they say, well, that's evidence that the Kabbalists worship Saturn because they put that black cube on their head. The Teflon, I think it's called. This here. So they'll say, well, that represents the cube of Saturn. So it's like, maybe. Again, it's like this stuff isn't explicitly stated in their texts. So it's all speculative. Like they're saying, well, oh, they're worshiping Saturn. Maybe. I don't know. They definitely don't claim to be. There's nothing in their text or their teachings that say that. But it's just a thing that people repeat because there's all this symbolism that kind of aligns. I've heard all this is a whole other rabbit hole, this Teflon. What is this? Like, where does this come from? Because it has I think that's if someone knows Hebrew better than I do, which is not, I don't know it very well, even though I took a year of Hebrew in Bible college. I forget which letter this is. Maybe it's the Yod. But I believe there's a letter that appears on the Teflon that has like 6 points on it or something. And they say like, oh, that's the number 6. Or I think, oh, I'm sorry. It's associated with the number 6 in gematria, the letter. I think maybe it is that letter that's associated with the number 6. So, I mean, that could be true. That could be symbolic. That probably does have some significance. Gematria is very important for Kabbalists, so I wouldn't be surprised if that were true. So yeah, that's where that idea comes from. I mean, I don't know where it comes from, but there's like this, conspiracy here. Yeah, the conspiracy theory, Saturn North Pole hexagon. So, I mean, I don't know. How did they see the top of Saturn in the ancient world? I don't know. I don't know if they're able to see it. So that might just be a modern thing that we now know what it looks like because of these NASA images and telescopes. So yeah, there's, these discussions kind of like are good starting points, but if you were to read one of these threads, you'd be really confused. Like, okay, what is this? People are saying it's all this different stuff. So here's another video you'll see going around, this mock sacrifice to Moloch, which was in 1933 at the Chicago World's Fair. Pretty bizarre video. It's like, okay, why are they doing that? I think it was like a play or something, but Romance of the People. Why were they acting that out? So here's a brother Nathaniel. The Star of Remphan in archaeological digs is 8-sided, and the Jews stole the Star of David from other cultures. However, this makes it no less evil, as in black magic, something twisted. Yeah, I think he's right about this. Star of David is supposed to be surrounded by a flower and instead has been stripped free of petals and placed between two horizontal lines indicating the crushing of the relationship with God and man symbolized by the two triangle. Judaism is satanic beyond measure. Yeah, and I think he's right about that. Judaism is the evil. So, yeah, I mean, here's Dr. Taylor Marshall, North Pole of Saturn. Okay, so he's just posting Saturn like we're, that's where that's what it's from. See, look. Okay, where's the star though? That's just a hexagon. So again, maybe it's like, maybe I'm not like debunking this. I'm not saying that means it's not true, but I'm just saying like from a critical perspective, it's like, how can we then say that that's exactly what that star represents? It's this hexagon, therefore they worship Saturn. So it's very disjointed. And this is why I wanted to cover this, because it's very disjointed what you'll get from this discussion here. These people aren't really doing much research. They're just reposting images and stuff. So, and then Jonathan Pajot quote tweeted this again back in April when it was going viral. And he says, reaching James Lindsay levels of symbolism interpretations, I see. Good grief. Doesn't really elaborate on that, except here. Shame on all those Molech worshipping Arminians, the first people to convert to Christianity, even before Constantine. To us, the hexagram in their earliest cathedral and in the very design of so many of their churches. So you see the hexagram here in these ancient Armenian churches. Right? There's one there. There's one there. Here's another one. Medieval. Well, medieval, now we're getting more into questionable use, I would say. But again, probably it's more likely that they were just using a design that was used in these ancient churches. And then you have, this isn't. Now, there's actually, I recognize this. Is this from, oh boy, is this what I think it is? No, it's not that. Okay. So this is actually, this may be a blind spot of Pajot here. Because this is a Roman Catholic depiction of Mary, and it does have the hexagram, and this may be, again, I'm not going to conclude anything, but now we're in the realm of this could be the occult use of it, because it's medieval, and because we know that there was an occult infiltration in Rome. There was an occult influence that made its way, some of the symbology. I mean, there's I've covered this before, but there's one of the more notable ones is in the Vatican. Forget what the apartments are called, but there's apartments that were built during the Middle Ages or I think during the Renaissance. During the Renaissance period, that depict Hermes Trismegistus. And so that indicates that there was a Hermetic influence that made its way into the Vatican. And I forget which pope it was, but there was a pope who had this pretty deep interest in Kabbalah and Hermeticism. And he commissioned I'm trying to remember the name of the pope, but yeah, he commissioned this fresco to be painted in the Vatican of let me see if I could find it. Hermes Vatican fresco. And we'll find out from here which pope it was. Oh, that's not it. Let's look up this apartments. And this, I remember reading this from Francis Yates. The Borgia Apartments. Yeah, it's the Borgia Apartments. And so this was under Pope Leo the 13th, I believe. Oh no, that was the Restoration. Pope Alexander. Yeah, that was it. Pope Alexander the 6th. So that was the one. Yeah, and these are. Let's see if I can find the image. I'm getting a little bit like sidetracked here, but we're doing a free exploration, I guess. I'll probably find it this way. Yeah, it's this one. This is a depiction of Hermes Trismegistus as a fresco in the Borgia Apartments of the Vatican, which was commissioned by the Pope. So, that's why, like, when I see this, it's like, well, you can't just like throw that out there and say, see, this was used in Christian images. Like, I mean, maybe it was just like what he's getting at, like a reference to the ancient use, but there was a clear point at least at some point during the Renaissance when it made its way into the Western world where it became more widely used in a different context. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not making a conclusion, but I wouldn't have thrown that one out there as evidence. That's all I'm saying. You have a good case for this. And he does leave a link here, which is worth looking at. And I'll get to your questions. I see that there's some questions in the chat, or at least one, so I'll address that shortly here. But this is an article on the six-pointed star used in ancient Armenia. The early Armenians believed that the symbol held magical powers and thus incorporated it in architecture, astronomy, and sacred art. Okay, so why were Christians using it? So, I mean, we know that, look, it's not like it's not a modern invention just specifically for the Jewish people. But that's interesting. that they believed it was a magic symbol. The most famous example of the usage, the Cathedral of St. James in Jerusalem, hexagram-shaped arches. And yeah, I mean, that is, that's questionable. So they believed they had magical powers and they were using it in their churches. So I don't know if that helps Pajot's case here. I don't know if that helps him. But to be fair, you know, I think he's partly right here that there's really not, like, you can't conclusively say that this is the Star of Molech and that they were using it as such, you know. So yeah, we don't have to go too deep into these threads, but I just wanted to show that was kind of like something that I think this was the first, at least the first conservative with, like, you know, massive platform that I saw bring this up that wasn't kind of like on the fringes. So there's a video I'm going to play now that is, it goes into the history. It's kind of like a more cohesive explanation of what we just went through, and it'll tie things together, and it is accurate. Like I have come across the stuff that they mentioned in this video in my studies, and they reference Gershom Scholem. It's a Jewish organization that goes through the history. And now, before you say, like, well, why would you trust a Jewish source? Like, maybe they're making it up. Well, we're going to get into, like, that's the third piece to this. We're going to get into after, like, what they're not telling you in this video. But it is still a good historical overview. So let me play that video here. Actually, before I start that, let me address this question here. Nikos asks, why is it that Kabbalah aligns so closely with modern science and cosmology? Totally a coincidence. Well, yeah, I did a piece on that as well a couple years back. It was specifically on cosmology, astral magic, the occult religion of modern cosmology. This is a free article. I don't think I paywalled this. There's Hermes Trismegistus right there. So, I mean, it just ties in with the Renaissance. It's the same thing. It's the same reason why the Protestants, pretty much all of academia, all these intellectuals were drawn to esotericism. Without getting too deep into the history, basically, to my understanding, these texts were safeguarded in the Byzantine Empire in Constantinople. And when the Turks sacked Constantinople, it opened the floodgates for all of this literature to be disseminated into the Western world. And so the Medici banking family started buying up all of these texts and distributing them in the Laurentian Library, which was the intellectual hub of Europe during the Renaissance. And so it became a hotbed of occult studies. And so there was this very popular notion in the Renaissance called Prisca Theologia, which is that the most ancient religion is the truest. And they saw Hermeticism as the most ancient religion because these were the secrets that were imparted to Moses by angels and transmitted orally for thousands of years. So this is, what they think is an ancient Egyptian religion that predates Christianity. And so then comes this idea that this is how you properly understand the Old Testament, through the lens of Kabbalah and Hermeticism, because it's ancient. This is the ancient mind. And basically what Gershom Scholem found was that this was all kind of a Middle Ages invention or a reinterpretation, like a mystical reinterpretation of Neoplatonism. So it turned out, and there was actually a Renaissance scholar who found this even prior, hundreds of years prior to Gershom Scholem. I'm blanking on his name, but he did a study on this that it basically to my understanding, it pretty much like defeated this notion of Prisca Theologia, and this is why it's not prominent in like modern academia, because they found that it was Neoplatonism. Basically, it wasn't as old as they thought it was. So yeah, in this article, I go into that a bit, how it got there, and then also why they derived their cosmology and science from it. And this is within the context of cosmology. I'm not going too much into other stuff because this also influences quantum physics. And there's a great video. Oh man, I'm getting like, if you guys are okay with, okay, yeah, thanks, Orthodox Boomer Grandma. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all your support. Thank you. I'm so tempted to play this video, but there's a video of all these physicists talking about how shocked they were to find that the ideas of modern physics derived from Kabbalah. So it's basically the way it's the Kabbalistic cosmology that reinterpreted their understanding of the universe, because Kabbalah is basically like a blueprint for what the Kabbalists believe is like of reality itself, of the material world and the spiritual world. So it's like the framework of reality. And so, the whole thing, like the book of creation, the Sefer Yetzirah, there's a lot of cosmology in it. So like you have this idea, for example, that God, when he spoke the universe into existence, prior to him speaking, he had to inhale. And when he inhaled, it created space. It created the space in which to make the heavenly spheres and the material world. Because first you needed the space, you needed space-time to create material. And so they believe that there was an inhale that occurred, because there's like a weird kind of like anthropomorphic notion they have of God, of the who we would consider God the Father. It's like a totally different deity though. But yeah, so the whole thing is very deeply cosmological. That's just one example, but they have these forces of the sun and the moon, this kind of like tension between the sun and the moon. And it's like, there's a lot of like, this is where heliocentrism came from. So it's like sun worship basically. So yeah, it's paganism basically. It's just like mystical paganism. So yeah, I go into it in this article. I won't get too off topic, but yeah. And here's the emerald tablets that Isaac Newton was a Kabbalist too, by the way, and Hermeticist and alchemist, which is very common with these guys. They were usually in multiple disciplines, occult disciplines. And so the Emerald Tablets is a Hermetic text that Isaac Newton was the first to translate into English. So yeah, I go into detail here. There's what I was looking for, that fresco. But yeah, you can look at the article. It's called Astral Magic. So where were we here? Yeah, I was going to play this video. So let me play this video, and this will give us a better historical perspective of the origins of this symbol.
Most Jews recognize the Star of David as a symbol of Judaism. Some would argue it's the symbol. Today, the Star of David is practically ubiquitous in the Jewish world. It's even an emoji. The most iconic use of the star might be on the Israeli flag. But the Star of David wasn't always a universal symbol for Judaism. What's the history behind how two overlapping triangles came to be the most universally recognizable symbol associated with Judaism? The answer goes back centuries, and it's surprisingly complicated. In ancient times, the Star of David, or the Magen David, wasn't an exclusively Jewish symbol. It was a common geometric symbol, just like the 5-point star and even the swastika. The oldest record of the 6-point star as a Jewish symbol was around the 2nd or 3rd century. Archaeologists found stars of David on the walls of the Synagogue of Capernaum near the Sea of Galilee. But most experts think that these stars and those found elsewhere in the early Common Era were used for decorative purposes and didn't hold any significant Jewish meaning. Nearly a century later, the star appeared on the now famous Leningrad Codex, the oldest known manuscript of the Hebrew Bible dating from 1008 CE. However, it's unclear if it was used merely for decoration or possibly had a deeper religious purpose. Experts like German-Israeli academic and philosopher Gershom Scholem theorize that the star gained more meaning in Judaism in the mysterious teachings of the Kabbalah. The 13th and 14th centuries saw a growing movement of Jewish sages in Spain, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East, writing Kabbalistic texts that explored the foundations of Jewish mysticism. These texts were the first sources to ascribe meaning to the 6-point star. The Book of Boundary, written in Spain in the early 14th century, contains several depictions of the 6-point star, where it's identified as being on the shield of David, a reference to the legendary protective shield used by King David, which, according to legend, had magical powers and could ward off spirits and demons. Other works of the time make similar references to the king's magical amulet with a 6-point star emblazoned on it. But the earliest known particularly Jewish usage of the Star of David wasn't tied to a Kabbalah scholar. In the mid-14th century, Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV gave Prague's Jews the right to bear a flag. Under the red flag, with a yellow Star of David on it, Prague was the world's first Jewish community to use the star as its official emblem. The Star of David was on flags and books in Prague at the time and in surrounding Jewish communities, but it didn't go viral until the 18th century. It started in Europe, where everywhere Jews looked, they saw the symbol of Christianity, the cross. Seeking to find their own distinctly Jewish symbol, communities turned to the Star of David. This struck a chord with diaspora Jews and spread to synagogues across the world. The star was cemented as the Jewish symbol in 1897 at the First Zionist Congress in Basel, which was chaired by Theodor Herzl. There, the Star of David was chosen over icons like the menorah as the official Zionist symbol for 2 reasons. Jews everywhere already knew it, thanks to the widespread use of the star during the 19th century, when it became splashed on synagogues, prayer books, tombstones, and the stationery of Jewish charitable organizations all over. The second reason was that it didn't have the religious significance of other symbols. By the mid-20th century, no symbol was more tied to Judaism. Zionist leaders embraced this. It didn't evoke memories of the past, they argued, and could represent a brighter future. To pervert the symbol of the Jewish people, Hitler decreed that all Jews under the Third Reich wear a yellow 6-point star badge of shame. The yellow Star of David is one of the most enduring images of the Holocaust. But the Jews who survived would not let Hitler decide their symbol's legacy, and on the heels of World War II, they reclaimed their star. The State of Israel was established, and the debate began over what emblem would be featured on the young nation's flag. The flag of the Zionist movement already had strong support, but Israeli politicians like Minister of Foreign Affairs Moshe Sharet had reservations. He and others feared that Jewish communities in the diaspora could face dual loyalty charges if the flags of the Zionist movement and the Israeli flag were the same. Therefore, in June of 1948, the Israeli government's designated committee announced a public competition calling for flag designs. Though it wasn't a requirement, entries were encouraged to include the 7 gold stars, a design dreamed up by Herzl and sketched in his diary in the late 19th century. During the 2-week-long competition, 164 people participated, submitting a total of 450 designs. While deciding on the final design, Sharet wanted input from the diaspora, so he reached out to Zionist leaders abroad. The response was clear. They and their constituents overwhelmingly preferred to have the Zionist flag become Israel's national flag. And on October 28, 1948, the Provisional Council voted unanimously to adopt the Zionist flag as that of the State of Israel. The history of the Star of David as a symbol is rich and complex. Many view it today as an enduring symbol of Jewish pride and perseverance throughout the world. Institutions across the globe display and commission art installations that examine the star's history, from JCCs, synagogues, and museums, to other iconic institutions like the Soroka Medical Center in Beersheba, Israel. But the star can also be controversial. Queer Jewish activists were singled out and barred from participating in 2019's DC Dyke March. Organizers claimed that the Jewish pride flag was banned because it had a Star of David placed in the center, superimposed over a rainbow flag, and is almost entirely reminiscent of the Israeli flag, swapping out the blue and white for a rainbow. Which begs the question, is it a symbol for a people or a country? The Jewish people predate the modern state of Israel, and so does the symbol. The legacy of the star lives on almost everywhere in Jewish communities throughout the world. Whether this symbol dates back thousands of years or a few hundred, it's an emblem woven deeply into the fabric of modern Jewish history and serves as a powerful image that binds the Jewish people together today.
Yeah, and it's it's used on the LGBT flag because it's Kabbalistic. And, well, I mean, you know, I'm not saying that these people know that, but there is an embedded spiritual goal of Kabbalah, which is Tikkun Olam, and that involves the repair of the world. And so the Reform Jews believe that one of the primary ways to, quote, repair the world is through all these progressive causes. So that's not by accident that they've included it on the flag during the the Dyke March. So yeah, I mean, that's like something that you see pretty often too. But there was a lot that they left out in that. Now they were correct for the most part. For a lot of the stuff in that, but we're going to look at some of the things that they quite possibly purposely didn't go over. And so, yeah, I've got this article here this is the Seal of Solomon. And this is the origins of this. They're saying is from Josephus was mentioning it. This is what Alex Jones was saying that the star is. It's the Seal of Solomon. And this is from another occult text called the lesser, what is it? The Lesser Book of Solomon or something, which is the legend. And then again, this is from an Islamic text. So take that for what it is. But the legend is that underneath Solomon's throne, these archaeologists discovered this this grimoire, this magic book that had the names of 72 demons. And that's where this whole story is from, that Solomon was practicing black magic, which is now in the occult known as Solomonic magic. And he was using this seal to, like Alex Jones said, to seal these demons inside of jars. So it was like an amulet or a talisman. And this is, again, a Renaissance. This derives from the Renaissance. So it's all nonsense. It's all just like a Renaissance syncretism. So yeah, here it is. In Islamic eschatology, some believe that the beast of the earth, which should appear near the last judgment day, will come bearing the seal of Solomon, and will use it later to stamp the noses of the unbelievers. Yeah, and this doesn't even go into detail about what is the lesser. Is it the less? Hang on, lesser. I'm gonna look up this. The Lesser Key of Solomon. That's what it's called. So this is where that's from. The Lesser Key of Solomon. So yeah, this is a look. 1583. This is a Renaissance occult book, and these are the name. I don't even want to like show these. It's like it's just so. This stuff is so retarded. And so they name all of these. Are these demons or angels? I mean, this is all fake. But the idea here is that these are the names of all these spirits, and this is where this is what influenced John Dee. By the way, he got really into this stuff, this Solomonic magic. He believes he was talking to angels and stuff through like skyring these crystal balls and everything. So yeah, this is a very Aleister Crowley was into it. So this is like a popular occult text, the seal of the Lesser Key of Solomon. So yeah, this is not, obviously it's not from the Bible. It's just Renaissance occult nonsense. Yeah, the jinn. Yeah, the demon. They call the demons. They call jinns. So that's why, like, even Alex Jones was like, "Oh, they're the jinns. It's the seal of the jinns, the lesser key of Solomon." Like he's saying it like all like that. Like it's like, oh wow, he's dropping a truth bomb here. Truth nuke. Watch out for the truth nuke from Alex Jones on the JQ, and it's really just Renaissance occult nonsense. So. Like, look, he's right that it was you, like that. Yes, that is a hexagram. That's undisputedly a hexagram. So again, it's just that you see the symbol, like this is the occult adoption of this symbol that existed hundreds of years before, if not 1,000, at least 1,000 years before. So, yes, there is, like, if you want to follow the transmission, it was like there was an early use of it, which we just saw even in the ancient Armenian use of it, which were the first Christian country putting it on their churches, and they even had this notion that it was a magical sigil, right? And it doesn't say, at least from that one source, it doesn't say like what that entailed, but they had this notion that it was a magic symbol. And then you saw in that video, they're talking about how it was King David thought it was a magic symbol, and that's why he put it on his shield, like a talisman. A shield is seen as like a talisman is seen as a spiritual shield, right? To ward off these demons, as they say. And I remember seeing a video of a rabbi talking about Kabbalah and like bragging about how it's used in modern medicine. And he was saying that vaccines are a form of Kabbalistic magic because they're like a talisman that ward off disease. So take that for what it is, take that for whatever you think of that. But yeah, he was, it's like, look, this stuff could all be nonsense, and they're just like ascribing it to Kabbalah, to confirmation bias type thing to confirm their wacky beliefs. But yeah, we have to be discerning about this stuff. Like I know that I have this kind of like people think I have this reputation of like I just believe all this like schizo stuff, but I try to be discerning about that, and that's what we try to do here, is to be discerning, but also recognize, like, don't be afraid to like recognize what the truth entails. Sometimes this stuff is dangerous, like when you know about it, not in a spiritual sense, like, oh, I'm going to do something with it, but just the implications. So you can find more on this here. I posted this the other day on X. It gets deep. Read the Talmud. Yeah, I would advise against reading the Talmud. I would say read these kinds of books that are quoting rabbis interpreting the Talmud, because like first of all, I think most people don't understand this. The Talmud is 32 volumes. Who's got and it's like, it is actually mostly just like arguing. It's just rabbis bickering over all these to excruciating detail about how to implement and follow these laws that don't even apply to Christians. So a lot of it is very boring. It's not like in every page there's something like what what we all know it says about Christ and the Theotokos. That's not like in every page of the Talmud. If it were, you'd see a lot more quotes. There's first of all, it's demonic. So the whole thing is demonic, but like there are definitely like more blasphemous stuff that you would have to probably do some digging to even find it. I wouldn't recommend, I'm not going to say don't read the Talmud, but I would say like that shouldn't be a priority. Like there's so much better, things that we should be reading. And if you were interested in this subject, I would say read guys like E. Michael Jones and Michael Hoffman, whose text I have here. There's a number of others. I think if you wanted to get an Orthodox perspective on this, I know that at least Matthew Raphael Johnson is, I would say, the most knowledgeable on Jewish mysticism of any Orthodox historian that I know. I don't really know any other Orthodox historians that even talk about this stuff. So this is from Michael Hoffman's book, Judaism's Strange Gods. I have a hard copy of this. It's an updated version that has it has an image that corresponds with this, but I don't think we need to see it. It's kind of what we just have been looking at. And this is about the Magen David, which was mentioned in that video about this is the symbol that David used on his shield. And so it says the Star of Bohemia, not David. And this is, always look at the footnotes. This is how you go on these deep dives. This is the best way to find these sources, is like actually reading books and reading the footnotes, not from these Twitter threads. That's just going to drive you crazy. You're never going to get to the bottom of anything. So look at the footnotes, who is he quoting? And as it turns out here, he's quoting Gershom Scholem primarily, who again is the preeminent, that's like, if you drop Gershom Scholem and it's like, okay, no one's really arguing with that. Like even Kabbalists are, to my knowledge, not really disputing Gershom Scholem. He's that reputable. So it says the Israeli nation talisman is the hexagram, which is called the Star of David and is supposed to be the ancient symbol of Israel. However, such an occult symbol is nowhere mentioned in the Bible. It was bequeathed to Jewish leaders in the 14th century by the Hermeticist King Charles IV of Bohemia and formally adopted as the Star of David in 1898 at the Second Zionist Congress in Switzerland. Let me make this a little bigger. Professor Gershom Scholem wrote of how within Judaism, amulets and protective charms can be found side by side with the invocation of demons, incantations, and even sexual magic and necromancy. As early as the Geonic period, the title Baal Shem, or Master of the Name, signified a master of practical Kabbalah who was also an expert at issuing amulets for various purposes, invoking angels or devils. And we saw that with the sigils in the Lesser Key of Solomon that we just looked at there. So again, this is like, you have to understand that this is all syncretism. They're syncretizing Hermeticism, the Jewish mysticism, which also integrated Hermeticism and Neoplatonism. So it's like a culmination of all these things. It's not just like, it wasn't just like conceived out of a vacuum or whatever. This demonic pantheon includes devils known in the Kabbalah as the Shedem Yehudaim. Did I just cast a spell by saying that? Professor Scholem informs us that these devils are in submission to the Talmud. He writes, there are also good-natured devils who are prepared to help and do favors to men. This is supposed to be particularly true of the demons ruled by Asmodius, who accept the Torah and are considered Jewish demons. Their existence is mentioned by the Hasidi Ashkenaz as well as in the Zohar. Elie Wiesel, the celebrated sage of the Holocaust, who is widely feted in the Western media as a kind of lay saint, has written an entire book praising these Baal Kabbalists. Wiesel writes of the great Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, master of the good name, known for his powers in heaven as well as on earth. In his account of the rabbi's exploits, Wiesel notes that God had to recognize the validity of Satan's argument. Yeah, this is just schizophrenic nonsense. Like the Talmud, the Kabbalah supersedes, nullifies, and ultimately replaces the Bible, which, yeah, that's true. He covers that here, how he quotes. So this is why I say this is a better text to read than the Talmud, because it actually makes sense of things. Because he shows using the Talmud how in Judaism, the Talmud is seen as like the superior text, or the superior like law to the Hebrew Bible. And actually, the Hebrew Bible is like the lowest on the totem pole in authority. So let me see if I can find that. Actually, that would be good reference. The Torah is like, yeah. There's so many references to it. I don't remember where to find it. Let me look at the table of contents here. Let me see. Again, I have a different version, so. Oh, it's okay. So it's got to be in the first chapter. Yeah, and he doesn't have the images here. But yeah, he quotes from the Talmud. Oh, you know what? I have it in. I can find it. One sec. Hoffman. I always do this. I end up searching my own tweets as like an archive. Was it this one? That's the page we're looking at. Okay, here it is. This is what I was looking for, this thread. So this is why I posted images from this book here. So this is the updated version I have. And it says here, the authentic attitude of the religion of Judaism toward God himself is one of self-worship. This is accurately expressed in the following core teaching from the Babylonian Talmud. Since God already gave the Torah to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, we no longer pay attention to heavenly voices. God must submit to the decisions of a majority vote of the rabbis. Gotta love democracy, right? And you see where democracy comes from. Everything about Orthodox Judaism is either a distortion or falsification of the Old Testament because it is based on anthropomorphic traditions that void the Old Testament by means of a series of dispensations and loopholes. Yeah, that's where you get all these wacky loopholes from. And then this is, another interesting, some more interesting context here, which is that the Talmud actually permits rabbinic storytelling so that the uninitiated can't distinguish between fact and fantasy. So it's a purposeful distortion of what they think is true, of what they really believe about the teachings of the Talmud. So that the storytelling, they're permitted to basically lie for the sake of heaven. So, for the sake of the uninitiated, the non-Jews, to find out about what is really in here, they're permitted to lie. So yeah, that's this is all unrelated, but that's what I wanted to find there. So getting back to this text, where were we here? So yeah, the Talmud and Kabbalah supersedes and nullifies the Torah, the Bible. The reader must become accustomed to regarding biblical language in a Kabbalistically symbolic way. The Kabbalists taught that the Torah is a vast body of symbols. The simple meaning of biblical language recedes into the background as symbolic discourse assumes control. The true meaning of Scripture becomes manifest only when it is read through the proper cipherodic code. So again, this is where this Renaissance notion comes from. You can see it right there from the rabbis, that this is the only proper way to interpret the Old Testament. Again, this is why this stuff is relatively important to understand. If you were kind of already down this path. I'm not saying like for the average Joe, for the average Orthodox Christian you talk to at coffee hour, you don't like this doesn't come up, right? I'm not talking about like normies and stuff. Like for those of us who are, who've already gone down this path of no return, this stuff is what gives the spiritual blueprint for why this stuff is being imposed upon us in the modern world, right? So this is why I find it to be important to understand that, right? So like that question of like, okay, why did all these guys, why were they so drawn to it? Why were they drawn to Kabbalah and Hermeticism? Why did they integrate it in modern science and, and all this stuff that shaped the modern world? Well, when you understand what it says and what it teaches, then then it makes sense. Why? I mean, this was intellectuals were very drawn to this. Very brilliant people too, by the way. They weren't stupid. Some of the greatest thinkers in the modern world were influenced by this spiritual blueprint. The Kabbalah also exhibits the same potent hatred for Jesus as the sacred Jewish Talmud does, insulting him in grotesque and... Okay, so this is getting more into Kabbalah and not as much about the... I skipped a page here. I think this is still about the star. No, we're getting more into Kabbalah here. Okay, so that was all about the star, I think, right? And that comes from, I found the original text. That comes from this text here by Gershom Scholem, which is called The Curious History of the Six-Pointed Star, how the Magen David became the Jewish symbol, which again was described in that video. And, interestingly, they reference this in the video, but the Jews were upset that the Christians had this symbol that they would parade around with that was on all their churches and on all their images, and they had a symbol that represented the Christian faith, right? The cross. And they wanted a Jewish version of that. And so that was what inspired them to adopt this demonic sigil. So it's literally an inversion of the cross. That's what that is. I mean, so that's why I don't think it matters if it's the seal of Solomon or the star of Remphan or whatever you want to call it, or the North Pole of Saturn. I don't think it matters, because the way that it was adopted was as an anti-Christian, or anti in the sense of counter-Christian symbol, and obviously what it has become, which has represented the Antichrist state of the Zionist state of Israel. So it says here, actually, the six-pointed star is not a Jewish symbol. Okay, I think this was quoted in Hoffman. It does not express any idea. It does not arouse ancient associations rooted in our experiences, and it does not shorthand representation of the entire spiritual reality understood immediately by the observer. It does not remind us of anything in biblical or in rabbinic Judaism. So they adopted it because it didn't remind them, according to Scholem, because it had no spiritual or biblical symbolic reference to it. Indeed, until the middle of the 19th century, it did not occur to any scholar or Kabbalist to inquire into the secret of its Jewish meaning, and it is not mentioned in the books of the devout or in all Hasidic literature. If it was once related to the emotions of the devout Jew, that relation was entirely founded on a sentiment of fear. So it is quite possible that this was knowingly adopted as an occult symbol by Kabbalists who kind of secretly imposed that it be used. And I think that is more likely the case. Again, speculative, but when you look at the history and how, it was adopted and what it came to mean, and again, in that video, how they said that it was like unanimous, that they all chose the Star of David, as they call it, to represent the Zionist state and the Jewish people, even against their better judgment, knowing that it would associate all Jews with Zionism. It was still unanimously agreed upon to adopt it as their symbol. So that, that's interesting, for lack of better terms, but its occasional appearance as a decoration gives it no claim to be a Jewish symbol. So again, they didn't identify this with Judaism. That's just what he's saying here. And even as a simple decoration, it is only rarely found among our antiquities. It appears among the motifs that served to decorate ancient buildings, including the Synagogue of Capernaum, 2nd or 3rd century. But in the same synagogue, the swastika is found side by side with it. And certainly no one will contend that this makes the swastika a Jewish symbol. And that's true as well. That I think we all know that the swastika was also found in ancient temples. I believe even some Byzantine floor tiling, there's images of a swastika. The Buddhists have used the swastika for many centuries. So there is truth to that it was like kind of seen as this neutral symbol. Although we know that with this hexagram, it seems like there's some transmission, some spiritual symbology that was transmitted along with the symbol itself that relates to mysticism and magic. So again, I don't know how true that is, but Gershom Scholem was a Jewish historian and I'm not. So I mean, again, like take this for what it is. This is a Jewish historian who was a practicing Kabbalist. So keep in mind what that passage from the Talmud said. It's like, how much of this is him not disclosing these esoteric secrets that are not for the profane, It's like, that's why this stuff is very difficult to interpret. And it's almost pointless, to be honest. But it's good to know at least what the prominent scholars are saying about it for reference. The appearance of the symbol in Christian churches long before its appearance in our synagogue should warn of the overzealous interpreters. Okay, so then even ancient tombstones had the 6-pointed star before the 17th century, then only in Prague. Well, okay, another interesting thing here. Prague, in the 17th century especially, I found this in my research on in the book I'm writing. Prague was a hotbed of esotericism in the 17th century. It was like one of the hubs in Europe. So you had all these Kabbalistic rabbis like Rabbi, what was his name? It's in my, hang on, it's in my article. Was it, it was the other one. Okay, so, okay, not Manasseh ben Israel. Rabbi Falk, this guy. Rabbi Falk was, he frequented Prague. I think he had one of his headquarters set up there when he ended up establishing this secret society with collaborating with all these Puritan ministers. And this guy, Hartlib. So he established what's called the Hartlib Circle, which was like a pre-Masonic network across Europe, a secret society. And he was a very highly regarded Kabbalist. So a lot of the Puritans were consulting him. He had a lot of contact with Puritans. A lot of cross-pollination was going on with the Jewish community and the Puritans at the time, and so that is what was going on in Prague. So there's a lot of these meetings, these secret society meetings occurring in Prague. So again, it's like you can just look, like you just identify the time and the place, and then the symbols that associate with it, and you can read one sentence like this and kind of, you can conclude quite a lot from that. And by conclude, I mean strongly speculate, I suppose. That you can just see like, well, okay, there was all these tombstones with 6-pointed stars appearing in Prague in the 17th century, and this is what was going on in Prague in the 17th century. And then you have this whole history of this symbol being associated with magic. So, I mean, come on. So there's, if you're going to speculate, make a strong case for it at least. So that a skeptic would be like, well, That's interesting. It's inconclusive, sure, but it's at least you can see where they're coming from. Like, you can't really dispute that too much, right? And so, as it is with our Akiba, so it is with the 13th century author of the Book of Splendor, the Zohar. This is the other Kabbalistic text. You had the Sefer Yitzrah, the Book of Creation, and the Book of Splendor, which is the Zohar. And with the 16th century Kabbalist Isaac Luria, the Ari, there's no reference at all to the shield of David in their works, let alone as a symbol of Judaism. And all the vast literature commonly known in the as the Lurianic writings, the figure of the shield, but not, it's the same, is found only once in the context of talismans and amulets. And even here, it is the same. Okay, so you get the idea. So yeah, this is a good text to read if you wanted to dive further into this. I mean, that was just what I had highlighted. There's a lot more here, but this is where I think, does he mention Bohemia? And then, yeah, okay. So Moravia is another location, just like Prague, where there was a lot of revolutionary activity going on. Especially with all these millenarian sects of Protestant millenarians, like the Moravians. The Hussites were in Moravia. So again, you see these locations that were like thriving with esotericism and with Jewish mysticism, and this is where these symbols emerge from. And so here's where you can see where Michael Hoffman got that from. So all I did was I identified his text, his reference here. I don't remember if this was cited in here, but this is maybe it was from a different work from Scholem that was, anyway, this was something I found from Gershom Scholem that is saying the same thing that Michael Hoffman's referencing there. So that's why it's like you kind of don't need to read these whole texts. You can just read someone like Michael Hoffman who breaks it down for you. But you can see that he's not making it up. It's at least from here. You can argue if Gershom Scholem was making it up, but you can at least draw a line back to the preeminent Kabbalistic scholar that this came from. Right? For me personally, I don't need to go deeper than that. You can, but I'm not going to go deeper than that, because that's a credible enough source. You want to say he's lying? Well, now you've got another. Great, make a case for it then. How the number one Kabbalistic scholar was making all this stuff up. Now you've got another perhaps more interesting conspiracy theory there. So yeah, again, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there's the text there. So this is how you find this stuff, right? It's not from these memes. It's not from like reading replies on Twitter threads. Read the books, man. Just read these books, right? They're not okay, this book was hard to find. I'm not going to lie. This is a hard to find book because it's banned on Amazon. So you have to really dig to find this book. But you can find the PDF. The PDF's out there. I'm not going to tell you how to download PDFs of copyrighted material, but you could find PDFs. They're out there. You're a search away from finding it. And you can go from there, do what I just did, Control F, and search for key terms in the PDF and try to start doing some digging. And then look at the primary text that they're citing and then start working from there. That's much more productive than looking through all these memes from these accounts that don't know what they're talking about, right? They might be onto something, but it's like nothing that you can really like conclude anything with. So this is another good channel. Again, a Jewish mystic. I mean, can see his tiny hat there. And this guy does really great research on I think his channel is called Esoterica. So he does great research on esotericism, lots about the Renaissance. And he's pretty spot on from what I can tell. So stuff about Kabbalah, this guy's a good reference for. He'll just tell you how it is from a historical point of view. So, this is a 15-minute video. I don't know if I'm going to play this whole thing, but yeah, this one's called Ancient Angel Magic, Sefer HaRazim, the Book of Secrets. This is where this Solomonic magic derives from. So he's talking about Jewish magic in the 3rd or 4th century. I also did a post on what did I call this one? If I can remember the title. Was it in here? This one. Okay, Kabbalah and the Transmission of the Gnostic Spirit. I need to change the names of these articles because they're all like Kabbalah and the blank, right? So I need to come up with better titles. But people see that term Kabbalah and they're like, huh. For some reason, there's a lot of interest about this. So it's like you add Kabbalah in the title and it hooks people, I guess. But so in here, I talk about. And this is all what's known as Merkaba mysticism. I don't think I've referenced that in here, but that's what this is called. So pre-Kabbalistic Jewish mysticism, before it was kind of like systematized in Kabbalah, all this like, 2nd, 3rd century magic that's being referenced here, right? The Shadim, which are these Jewish demons. And this is like a pantheon of Jewish gods, right? So like you have this Lilith character who is like a demonic or like a whore demon, I guess. She just goes around and, tempts Jews with like sexual promiscuity and stuff like that. Azazel, who is, apparently this is referenced in the Book of Enoch, the demon that was bound in the desert that people believe, a lot of Protestants actually believe it's Satan is Azazel. So this is also a idea from Jewish mysticism. Asmodeus. So like it names all the stuff that we just saw in the Lesser Key of Solomon, right? It's like syncretic with Zoroastrianism. So, this is Merkaba mysticism. This was like pre-Kabbalistic Jewish mysticism. And the reason I brought this up is because I believe, and again, I can't substantiate this, but this is a theory. I wouldn't like get into a debate over this, but I suspect that we see this in the New Testament in the book of Acts, in the Acts of the Apostles, in Acts 19. So there's these stories of these Jewish exorcists. They're kind of just Jews LARPing as exorcists, and they're going around and charging people to do these fake exorcisms because obviously they can't cast out demons with demons, as Christ said. So they're even invoking the name of Christ and Paul. They invoke the name of Christ and Saint Paul to do their exorcisms, even though they're not Christians. They're practicing Jewish magic, and so I believe this was an early form of this Babylonian magic, this Merkaba mysticism, and in this story, the demon overpowers them. It's kind of hilarious. The demon overpowers them and like completely wrecks them, and they run out of the house naked. The demon beats them up so bad their clothes get ripped off, and they're all naked and beat up. And this was in Ephesus, and Ephesus was not unlike the other locations that I referenced there. It was like a hub of all this pagan mysticism, all this magic that was being practiced. And there was some cross-pollination with Jewish mysticism. Don't think we know to what degree, at least from the text here. But it says here, the Christians in Asia Minor were converted out of Phrygian mystery religions, Babylonian magic, and astrology used in Kabbalah. Well, what's now Kabbalah, but it was at the time Merkaba mysticism. Ephesus was in a state of spiritual and civilizational crisis with widespread worship of the city's patron goddess Artemis and questions concerning the spiritual power of Christ over the demonic forces that manifested in Hellenistic culture. It is no wonder why St. Paul had a strong emphasis on spiritual warfare in his letter to the Ephesians. These are my words. Many converts to Christianity still held to their occult practices, magic books, and war talismans. And it says in the text, and many who had believed came confessing and telling their deeds. Also, many of those who had practiced magic brought their books together and burned them in the sight of all. And they counted up the value of them, and it totaled 50,000 pieces of silver, which I think equates to, says here, roughly $6 million. Oh, $6 million, huh? So, yeah, a very valuable amount of literature that they burned. So the first, maybe not the first, but you see this book burning occurring in the book of Acts, where what is it they're burning? Well, it's all this demonic Jewish magic and pagan and Jewish syncretism. So, I go into detail, a little bit of detail on like why that is significant. The kind of the ritual act of burning all these magic books in the sight of all specifically, because there's this notion of like words of power that is how the magic is transmitted through like the speaking of these words. And that's why these Jewish magicians were LARPing as exorcists and thinking that they had power in invoking the names of Christ and St. Paul, even though they had no belief in their teachings. They had no belief. So they were just blindly invoking these names that they didn't have the belief in. Another one here, the Sefer HaBrazim, thought to be the source book for Jewish magic, calling upon angels rather than God to perform supernatural feats. So again, the theme of invoking these demons to collaborate with human action to change the course of history or change the material world, bring about this, quote, world repair, boss God around, right? All this stuff. So this is what you see get intertwined with the Protestant Revolution, which is what this is what my book is going to be about, or what you can read about in these articles here. So, look, this is what I was saying at the beginning. If you become a patron of my work through Substack, you're not just supporting my work financially and allowing me to continue doing this. You get a lot in return. And my goal actually is that you get more in return than the value of a $9 subscription. So that comes in the form of the monthly book clubs meetings that we're doing, where we all have a private discussion on our readings, private Q&A sessions. You get access to my entire archive, which includes these, it's over 20,000 words between these two articles, which, you're basically getting the book for $9. And that's just two articles. You get my entire archive that I've been publishing on for going on 4 years now. A lot of stuff here. These are just the articles. So there's also, all my podcasts, the Eschaton audio series, which I desperately need to get back to. This has been kind of stagnant for a year. I plan to get back to that. This is the entire archive of my work. You can see here. So yeah, a lot that you get, as well as the community, the private Discord community. But that's me doing my shilling, I guess. But Is there flashing on the right side of the flashing on the right side of the screen? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I apologize if you feel like you're going to get a seizure. Maybe that was me scrolling too fast. So, all right, I think that I've covered a lot here, and kind of to summarize things, this is a complex history, the transmission of this symbol. It's not as simple as, well, that's the Seal of Solomon, or that's the Star of Remphan, or just, oh, that's the Star of David. That's just the a modern Jewish invention. Maybe it's all of them. Maybe it's some of those things. There's some truth to like all of these theories, but it's more complex than that. So this is why I wanted to do a bit of like a live deep dive into this, and just at least show you, like, point you towards the different takes on this. And I think that they all actually do make some kind of sense out of it. Because basically what it is like, it's this ancient symbol that in some cases may have been used purely for design. But there's also this inseparable connection to it resembling something that is magical. And it's unclear what kind of magic that is, but it is clear that somewhere towards the Middle Ages, it became primarily associated with Kabbalah and Hermeticism. And perhaps that is because that's how it was perceived in ancient times. It could have been a reinterpretation. Again, we don't really know conclusively. And it was seen as some kind of like talisman. So, this is why we're being bombarded with this image now, especially during the war during wartime with Israel, because this is their talisman. This is their defense, this symbol. This is their defense against the forces that are coming against them. So this is why they bombard. They literally view this as a talisman, as a symbol that protects them. Again, like mocking the cross. And, we know from the lives of the saints that the cross actually does act that way. Not that the cross is a talisman, but there is an Orthodox Christian use of the cross, even the sign of the cross. So not even just the symbol itself, but doing the sign of the cross has this power that repels the demons. So it's not that this notion of a talisman is demonic, but it's the fact that this is a demonic sigil, an inversion of the cross, and that's exactly how it was adopted in the modern usage of it. So there is, I think probably a mix of all of these things that we're seeing. It's like everyone's kind of like on the right track to some extent, but it's hard to connect this all. So I think the takeaway here is that it's pretty complex, but there's some truth to what everyone's saying to some degree. Although the stuff about Saturn, I don't know, man. That's still a little bit like, I don't know. I haven't read anything about that in these texts. None of these guys are saying anything about Saturn. It's not there. So that seems to me just like a coincidence type thing, because they also say the same about the cross. Like you'll see in that image, if I can find it here, and then I'll wrap things up. You'll see that they actually say the same for the cross, that this is where the cross comes from, if I can find the image. So that's how you know it's nonsense. It's in, yeah, okay, I think I just saw it here. Yeah, so this one, the Saturn cult. Oh, it's all just the Saturn cult, bro. All the world's religions are the Saturn cult. So look at what they do with the cross, right? Oh, the cross is 6 cubes put together. And then the tetrahedron is 6 pointed star with a cube in the middle. Hexagon. Okay, what does the hexagon mean? Oh, that's Saturn, bro. And the black cube. What is it like? They just throw this imagery at you, and it's like, well, see, it's all connected. How? No, I don't see that. Like, how? What is, like, you can't just like make 6 blocks that make a cross and say, like, see, it's all connected, bro. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, that's, keep in mind when you see that Saturn cult theory that it includes Christianity, at least to some of these people. If you want to take that next step, you can say the same about the cross. Another one here. So this is like this crazy like new age nonsense that a lot of these, like, it's Gnostic. Like a lot of these conspiratards that are, thinking they're exposing esotericism, they're anti-Christian. At least like traditional Christianity. They all have these like really schizo takes on Christianity. These are the types that will say like, oh, Constantine invented Christianity. Right? It was all Gnostic, and then he made it like a state religion, and that's what you have now. It's because of Constantine. Like, these people are retarded. So, be discerning with these images. That's all I'm saying. There's some truth to it. Yes, you're looking at a bunch of sigils here. But like it doesn't mean like the Buddhists, maybe it does. Like, it's like, again, we just don't know. You can't just throw these images out there and just be like, okay, this is proof of anything. Right? Again, another cross. So this is like, oh, it's all of organized religion. It's all a conspiracy, bro. It's like, you got to free your mind from the control of organized religion. Free your mind, bro. So it's all nonsense, but yeah, thought this was, worthwhile to cover because I'm not only asked about it often, but it's what I would consider an icon of the modern world, an icon, obviously not in the Orthodox sense, but to some degree, because it's an image that has a spiritual significance tied to it that seems embedded with it. It's used as protection, all this stuff, right? To ward off spirits. And so I hope that this gives a little bit more context and helps us to, like, the entire point of the work I do, to better understand the spirit of the age that has influenced, that has a stronghold on the modern world. These symbols are, we're bombarded with them every day, and they're demonic, right? It's like I kind of struggle a lot with like even presenting them. Like, I remember there was one book that a lot of people in the book club were recommending about. It's called it's something about like the occult ritual of 9/11, and I was really interested and intrigued by this book, and I got the PDF and I started looking through it, and it was just full of all this occult imagery. And I was like, you know what, guys, I hate to do this, but I think we're gonna pass on this book because I don't think it's good to expose yourself to all of these images. It's something that I try to be very conscious of. Oh, no. Hey, no problem. Thoughts of a Pilgrim. Thank you for tuning in. I know, some of you have to leave. I've been going on for a while. I'm just kind of rambling now. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in. I'm wrapping it up. What I'm doing here is, I'm trying to like just conclude everything so we can wrap it up. But yeah, if you have any questions, you're free to post them in the chat here. But yeah, I think that we have to be very discerning of this stuff, not only when it comes to like these threads and concluding things of these posts from people who you don't even know who these people are, right? But even just exposing yourself to the images, even like just the timeline itself, it's all images that are doing things to our minds that we don't usually know how it's impacting us spiritually. And I'm speaking for myself too. This is the difficulty in the work that I do, is that I have the, at this point, somewhat of a responsibility to kind of make sense of this stuff and in the Orthodox worldview. And I don't even think that I'm particularly good at that part, because I'm still learning. But this stuff is very challenging to deal with, like to be exposed to all this. So this is why people thank me all the time for doing this work, because they know that they can't. And it's like, I don't even know that I can, but I feel like this is a burden now that's been placed on me. So I have somewhat of a responsibility. So with that said, please pray for me, because there's a lot of spiritual warfare that goes on with this stuff, with having to do some of the discerning myself before I present this kind of material like that. It's like, man, don't ever, like, if you're desensitized to that kind of stuff, that's a good indicator that you need to take a step back. Like if an image like that doesn't bother you, it's like, okay, you need to take a break from this stuff. Like resensitize your spirit to being exposed to these images. So even in this stream, I've been presenting a lot of this stuff that it's like, so yeah, don't let it corrupt you. Absolutely. I mean, again, that's why it's important to understand the spiritual significance of this stuff, and to know, at least knowing that it can corrupt you is worth knowing. You don't have to look at all the images to know that, but with this one in particular, it's like, well, okay, this is literally an emoji that you see all the time. And it's a demonic sigil. It's an emoji that's used like to show pride for the state of Israel, and we're bombarded with it every day. And it's like, that's at least perceived to be some kind of magical symbol. So, none of this stuff has any power over us as Orthodox Christians. It doesn't have power over us. But it does seem to have some kind of power over the modern world to some degree. So I don't know how to even figure that out. But a lot of this stuff maybe is like self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, oh, again, it just coincides with it, and it's like, oh yeah, see, that proves like that this stuff is real. I don't know, but I know that Christ wins in the end, and this is all part of the plan. So, these people are not going to rebuild the world. It's all delusion. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and please, like I said, give me any critical feedback if you want to see anything different that I can do better, or topics that I can cover. If you prefer a different type of format for these streams, I did a kind of a weekly overview of some of the more talked about stories that were going around on Twitter earlier to start off the stream. Like if that's not your thing, just let me know so that I have a good idea of like how to improve the stream. So I'm new to all this, and any feedback helps. Like I said, this is something I'm doing behind the scenes, working on doing these every week, because like I found basically it's very difficult to find guests for the podcast and like schedule them and get them on. So I said, F it, we'll do it live. I'll just go live with something to talk about and go on these tangents and deep dives or whatever on these subjects, and maybe that'll be fun. So anyway, I'm going to probably sign off here, but I hope this was informative and it helped you to better understand the symbols that, dominate our modern world. So with that said, thank you all again for the support. Even just tuning in as a viewer is support, so I appreciate it. Even if you're hate watching, Thank you for the support. And we'll see you next, what is it, Thursday? Or no, it's Friday. Well, I usually do these Thursday, but maybe, I'll figure that out too. We'll see you next week at some point. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. I'm going to do the whole thing now. Feel free to tune out, but basically I got to do the whole, plugging. So yeah, subscribe on YouTube because I just started publishing there as well. And on, my main platform, Substack on here. So the reversion.co. You can support my work, get everything emailed directly to you when I publish, and I post these later. I'll probably upload this one tomorrow. And you can also find me on all the social platforms that I probably don't need to plug because you all know me on X and on Telegram. So you can check me out there, and make sure you're in the Discord as well if you want to get integrated in our community. And there's these ongoing discussions all throughout the day. I can't even keep up with them. It's very active. It's growing very fast. And it's a great community of like-minded people who, are interested in this kind of stuff. And we're all Orthodox Christians. And it's a good community. I love the guys on there. So yeah, make sure you get in there. The link's in the description of this video. Actually, everything's in there. I don't need to say all this because all the links are there. So check out the description for all the links. But anyway, have a great rest of your weekend. God bless.